The Silent Watchers, the death of Corythus Prime took exactly 14 hours. Admiral Zara Kelthus watched from her command ship as the once beautiful garden world transformed into a sphere of twisted metal and darkness. The Devourer Plague had arrived 3 days ago, and now another civilization was gone forever. Zara pressed her scaled hand against the viewport of her flagship, the Eternal Dawn. Her blue-tinted skin reflected the dying light of Corythus Prime's sun, and her 4 eyes tracked the mechanical swarms that moved like silver locusts across the planet's surface. Each tiny machine was no bigger than her thumb, but together they could consume entire worlds. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, his voice shaking with barely controlled fear. "We're receiving the final transmission from the surface." Zara turned away from the window. Lieutenant Vex Nolan looked young for a Crithian, his ceremonial battle ridges still sharp and unweathered by age. Like all her crew, he had volunteered to stay and witness this horror when they could have retreated to safer space. "Play it," she ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a Corinthian family huddled in what appeared to be a basement shelter. The father, his green skin pale with terror, held his child close while the mother recorded their final message. "To anyone who receives this," the woman whispered as explosions echoed above them, "tell the galaxy that we tried to fight. Tell them that Corythus Prime stood strong until the end. The machines are breaking through our defenses now. They consume everything. Our buildings, our vehicles, even the ground beneath our feet. Nothing stops them. Nothing." The transmission cut to static. Zara closed all 4 of her eyes and let out a long breath. Corythus Prime had been home to 2 billion souls just 3 days ago. Now it was nothing but raw materials for the plagues. Endless hunger. "How many worlds is that now?" she asked her tactical officer. Commander Thale Zerian checked his display with methodical precision. Despite being only 30 cycles old, he had become one of the Alliance's most capable strategic minds during this crisis. 47 systems completely consumed, Admiral. The plague is accelerating its advance. At current expansion rates, they'll reach the core worlds within 6 months. 47 worlds. Zara had been fighting this war for 2 years, ever since. The first plague ships had emerged from the dark nebula beyond the galactic rim. Each battle taught them the same terrible lesson. Conventional weapons were useless against an enemy that could instantly adapt and evolve. The Devourer Plague was unlike any threat the galaxy had ever faced. They weren't aliens seeking territory or resources. They were a technological virus, possibly created by some long-dead civilization as a weapon of ultimate destruction. The mechanical swarms would descend on a world, consume every atom of useful matter, and use it to build more ships, more weapons, more plague. "Status of the evacuation fleets?" Zara asked. "The transport convoy from Meridian reached safe harbor this morning," Thale reported. "But Admiral, we can't keep this up. For every refugee ship that escapes, we lose 2 escort vessels to plague interceptors. The mathematics are simple and horrible." Zara knew he was right. The Galactic Alliance had started this war with over 800 battle fleets. Now they were down to less than 50 operational groups, and those were scattered across 100. Different systems trying to buy time for civilian evacuations. "Admiral," Lieutenant Nolan called out again. Priority transmission from Alliance Command. The holographic conference chamber materialized around Zara's command chair. One by one, the surviving Alliance leaders appeared as flickering blue images. Chancellor Vex Morian looked ancient and exhausted, his normally pristine white robes stained with the ash of burning worlds. Fleet Admiral Corax of the Hegemony showed fresh battle scars across her armored carapace, while General Theron of the Federation had lost his left arm in the defense of Arcturus Station. Fellow commanders, Chancellor Morian began, his voice carrying the weight of civilizations on his shoulders. Our situation has become critical beyond measure. Intelligence reports indicate the plague is constructing some form of super in the Nexus sector. If completed, it could produce plague ships at 10 times their current rate. Admiral Corax leaned forward, her mandibles clicking with agitation. What are our options, Chancellor? My fleets are down to skeleton crews, and we're losing ships faster than we can build them. Limited, Morian replied quietly. We can attempt a coordinated strike on the superfactory, but our forces would be insufficient. We could evacuate to the Outer Rim territories and hope to rebuild, but the plague would eventually find us there too. General Theron spoke up, his remaining hand clenched into a fist. What about the emergency protocols? The quantum beacon network could send distress calls to unexplored sectors. Zara felt her heart skip a beat. The quantum beacon network was their most desperate gambit, a system that could send messages across impossible distances, even to regions beyond the known galaxy. But most of the outer sectors were empty space and dead worlds. The beacons are operational, Chancellor Morian said carefully, but the Outer Rim territories are largely unexplored. Our surveys indicate mostly dead systems and primitive life forms. The chance of finding someone capable of helping us is essentially zero. Admiral Corax's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. You're talking about sending distress calls to empty space. Even if there were civilizations out there, what could they possibly do against the plague that we cannot? Perhaps nothing, Morian admitted. But what other choice do we have? If there's even the smallest chance that someone out there has the power to help us, shouldn't we try? The debate that followed was heated but brief. They all knew the mathematics of their situation. At current losses, the Alliance would cease to exist within 6 months. The Quantum Beacon project was a desperate long shot, but it was the only shot they had left in the end. The vote was 13 commanders in favor, 4 against, and 2 abstentions. Very well, Chancellor Morian said with finality. Admiral Kelthis, your science division has the most advanced quantum communication array. Prepare your beacon for full power transmission to all Outer Rim coordinates. The conference ended, leaving Zara alone with her thoughts. She walked to her personal quarters and stared out at the stars, trying not to think about how many of those points of light had already gone dark forever. Somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, her people were dying. Children who would never grow up, artists whose masterpieces would be lost forever, scientists whose discoveries would die with them. She activated her personal communicator. This is Admiral Kelthis. Begin quantum beacon preparation. Full power transmission to all Outer Rim coordinates. 3 hours later, Zara stood in the beacon chamber deep within her flagship. The massive crystalline structure hummed with barely contained energy, drawing power from the ship's entire reactor core. Her science team had worked frantically to prepare the message, encoding everything they knew about the plague: tactical data, technological specifications, strategic analysis, and most importantly, a simple plea for help. Beacon is ready, Admiral, her chief technician reported. We have enough power for a single transmission to reach the galactic rim. After this, our reactor will need 48 hours to recharge. Zara placed her hand on the activation controls. This was probably futile, The outer rim was supposed to be empty, devoid of any civilization advanced enough to help them. But what choice did they have? To anyone who can hear this message, she said into the recording device, her voice steady despite the desperation in her heart. We are the Galactic Alliance. Our civilization is dying. An enemy from beyond our galaxy is destroying everything we have built. We have tried to fight, but we are losing. If you have the power to help, please. We have children who deserve to see tomorrow, she pressed. The activation key. The beacon fired, sending its message racing across space at impossible speeds. The quantum pulse carried their words, their data, and their desperate hope toward the rim territories where, according to all their surveys, nothing lived except silence and empty worlds. As the beacon powered down, alarms sounded throughout. The ship Zara rushed back to the bridge to find her crew in a state of controlled panic. Report, she commanded. Admiral, Commander Zarian said, his voice tight with disbelief. Long-range sensors are detecting massive plague movement toward the Valerian system. They're moving faster than we've ever seen before. The tactical display showed a red tide of enemy contacts flowing toward one of the Alliance's most important worlds. Valerian was home to the Alliance's primary shipyards and 3 billion civilians. Time to intercept? Zara asked, though she already knew the answer would be devastating. At maximum speed, 18 hours, Zarian replied. But Admiral, the plague fleet will reach Valerian in 12 hours. Even if we could get there in time, we're talking about facing over 200 enemy vessels with our single battle group. Zara stared at the display, watching the red dots creep closer to Valerian. 200 plague ships would turn the system into a graveyard within hours. Her single fleet, even fighting at full strength, could delay them for perhaps 30 minutes. Set course for Valerian, she ordered anyway. Maximum speed. Admiral, Lieutenant Nolan said quietly, our message. Do you think anyone received it? Zara continued to stare at the tactical display, watching the mathematics of extinction play out in real time. I don't know, Lieutenant. I honestly don't. No, but far away, at the very edge of known space, something stirred in the darkness between stars. The human monitoring station, Cerberus, hung in the void like a mechanical moon, its sensors constantly sweeping the galaxy beyond. Admiral Marcus Chen had been expecting this call for months. Humanity had been watching the Galactic Alliance burn, hidden by technology the aliens couldn't imagine. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we've received the quantum transmission from the Alliance fleet, full tactical data on the Devourer plague, along with a request for immediate assistance. Chen studied the data flowing across his screens. The plague was more advanced than their projections had indicated, but still within acceptable parameters for containment. He activated his command console and opened a secure channel to Terra Command. Fleet Admiral Rodriguez, came the reply. Almost instantly, I assume you've received the Alliance distress call. Yes, sir. The plague is accelerating their advance. Our intelligence estimates indicate total Alliance collapse within 4 to 6 months if current trends continue. Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. Through the holographic display, Chen could see him reviewing data on multiple screens. Finally, he spoke. The Senate voted 6 hours ago. Operation Silent Thunder is authorized for immediate deployment. You have full tactical command, Admiral. Bring our people home. Chen smiled. Grimly, understood, sir. Initiating Phase 1 deployment now. Across human space, Hidden bases that had been secret for 2 centuries suddenly came alive. Shipyards that had been building weapons in darkness began launching their products into the void. The Silent Fleet, humanity's greatest military achievement, prepared for war against an enemy the galaxy had never seen defeated. Captain Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge of her stealth dreadnought, Terra's Vengeance, watching as her ship's quantum cloak engaged. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, each of them volunteers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Cloak status, she asked her chief engineer. Quantum signature at 0%, Captain. We're invisible to all known sensor types. Even gravimetric detection won't find us. Alina nodded. The quantum cloak was humanity's greatest technological achievement. It didn't just hide their ships from sensors. It made them invisible to reality itself. They could fly through enemy formations without being detected, strike at will, and vanish before anyone knew they were there. Set course for the Corythis system, she ordered. Time to see what this devourer plague can do against weapons they've never faced before. As the Terra's Vengeance jumped to hyperspace, Alina felt the weight of history on her shoulders. For 200 years, humanity had watched from the shadows as the galaxy developed and flourished. They had learned, grown, and prepared for the day when their help would be needed. That day had finally come. The plague had consumed 47 worlds, but they had never faced an enemy that fought from the shadows with weapons designed specifically to counter their weaknesses. Alina smiled as she reviewed her mission parameters. Time to show the galaxy what humanity could do when the odds were impossible and hope seemed lost. Time to prove that sometimes the greatest strength came from those who had been forgotten by everyone else. The Silent Fleet was about to become very loud indeed. Thunder from the Void Captain, Alina Vasquez, watched through her view screen as another plague-feeding cluster writhed in its death throes. The massive biomechanical ships, each one larger than a city, convulsed as their neural networks collapsed. What had been a coordinated swarm minutes ago was now just floating debris and dying machinery. Neural cascade successful, her weapons. Officer reported with satisfaction. All enemy vessels in the target zone are neutralized. No survivors detected. Alina nodded approvingly. The neural cascade weapon was humanity's answer to the plague's hive mind coordination. While the Alliance fought with conventional weapons that the plague could adapt to, humans had developed something far more sophisticated, a weapon that could sever the psychic links binding the mechanical swarms together, turning organized fleets into confused individual units. Cloak status, she asked. Quantum signature holding at 0%, her chief engineer replied. The plague ships never detected our presence. Alina smiled. The quantum cloak was working perfectly. Her dreadnought Terra's Vengeance had just destroyed an entire plague battle group while remaining completely invisible. As far as any observers were concerned, the enemy fleet had simply died for no reason. Take us to the next target, she ordered. Plague Group Delta 7 should be consuming the asteroid belt in the Kepler system. As her ship jumped to hyperspace, Alina reflected on how perfectly Operation Silent Thunder was proceeding. For 6 weeks now, the human Silent Fleet had been moving through the galaxy like ghosts, systematically hunting plague vessels. They appeared from nothing, destroyed their targets with impossible weapons, and vanished before anyone could respond. From her command ship Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Marcus Chen coordinated the ghost war. The massive human dreadnought hung in empty space near the galactic core, its hull scarred by battles the Alliance would never know about. Around him, Holographic displays showed the positions of every human ship, every plague cluster, every Alliance fleet struggling to survive. Admiral, his tactical officer, reported, "Strike Group 7 has eliminated the feeding cluster at Proxima Drift. Total engagement time, 11 minutes. No witnesses. Excellent. What about the Helix Nebula situation?" Commander Sarah Kim, Chen's intelligence chief and quantum weapons specialist, stepped forward. "Our deep reconnaissance confirms the plague is building a super factory in the nebula's heart. The structure is massive, larger than anything we've seen. If they complete it, they'll be able to produce ships at an exponential rate." Chen studied the tactical display showing the Helix Nebula. The plague had turned the entire region into a fortress, with thousands of ships protecting their construction project. Even with their advanced technology, penetrating those defenses would require careful planning. "How long until the quantum storm prototype is ready?" he asked. 72 hours, Admiral. The device is designed to target the superfactory's control matrix specifically, but deploying it will require getting within 2,000 kilometers of the structure. Chen nodded grimly. The quantum storm weapon was humanity's ultimate trump card, a device that could disrupt the quantum fields binding matter together at the subatomic level. It would turn the plague's superfactory into constituent atoms, but only if they could get close enough to deploy it. "Begin preparation of Strike Group Alpha," he ordered. "If we're going to stop that factory, we'll need our best ships and crews." Meanwhile, Admiral Zara Kelthus was dealing with growing desperation among the Alliance forces. Her fleet had reached the Valerian system just as the plague attack began, and she was watching helplessly as another world died. "Admiral," Commander Zerian reported, his voice tight with controlled emotion, "the orbital defense platforms are down. Plague landing forces are making planetfall across 7 continents." Through her view screen, Zara could see the silver streams of mechanical locusts descending toward Valerian's cities. Each stream contained millions of tiny machines that would consume everything in their path. Buildings, vehicles, people, even the very ground beneath their feet. "Status of the evacuation?" she asked, though she already knew the answer would be devastating. "Transport capacity is insufficient," Lieutenant Nolan replied quietly. "We can save perhaps 15% of the population before the planet becomes uninhabitable. 15% out of 3 billion souls. They might save 400 million if they were lucky." The mathematics of genocide were simple and horrible. "Admiral," her science officer called out suddenly, "I'm detecting massive energy discharges from the plague advance fleet near the outer system. Multiple ships are going dark." The tactical display shifted to show the plague fleet that had been moving to reinforce the planetary assault. What Zara saw made no sense. Dozens of massive bioships were floating motionless in space, their energy signatures indicating complete neural cascade failure, equipment malfunction. Commander Zarian asked, studying the readings with confusion. "No." The science officer replied, her voice filled with amazement. "The pattern is too precise, too organized. Something attacked these ships with weapons designed specifically to target their neural networks." Zara stared at the display in growing wonder. For weeks they had been receiving similar reports from across the galaxy. Plague fleets simply dying without explanation, no evidence of attackers, no trace of conventional weapons. It was as if some invisible force was systematically hunting their enemies. Could there be survivors from the outer rim? She wondered aloud. Some civilization we didn't know about. "Impossible," Zarian replied automatically. "Our surveys of The Rim territories were thorough. Nothing out there but dead worlds and primitive life forms. But even as he spoke, both officers found themselves staring at the tactical display. The pattern of plague losses was too organized to be coincidence, too systematic to be random equipment failure. Someone was fighting the enemy, someone with weapons and tactics the Alliance had never seen. "Admiral," Lieutenant Nolan called out excitedly, "I'm reading massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. The plague landing forces are there withdrawing." Zara turned to the planetary display in astonishment. The silver streams of mechanical locusts were indeed pulling back from the surface, flowing upward toward their motherships with apparent panic. But those motherships were already dead, floating lifeless in space. What could cause them to retreat? She asked. Her answer came in the form of a new contact on the tactical display. A single ship had appeared in the system, not jumped in through hyperspace, not decloaked, but simply materialized as if it had been there all along and was only now choosing to be seen. The vessel was unlike anything in Alliance databases. Sleek and predatory, it moved with impossible grace through the debris field of dead plague ships. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, giving the craft an otherworldly appearance. "Unknown vessel," Zara transmitted on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Zara Kelthus of the Galactic Alliance. Please identify yourself." The response came in perfect Krithian, though the voice carried unfamiliar accent patterns. "Admiral Kelthus, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Colonial Defense Force. We received your distress call." Terran Zara had never heard of any species by that name. "Captain Vasquez, are you responsible for the destruction of the plague?" "Fleet, affirmative, Admiral. My ship eliminated the enemy vessels threatening this system. The surviving plague forces are retreating to regroup, which gives us an opportunity to talk." Zara felt all four of her hearts racing. "Captain, I don't understand. Our surveys indicated the Outer Rim territories were uninhabited. Where did your people come from?" There was a pause before the alien captain replied. "Admiral, with your permission, I'd like to arrange a meeting between our commanders. There's a great deal we need to discuss, and not much time to do it." 6 hours later, Zara found herself aboard the most advanced spacecraft she had ever seen. The human ship Terra's Vengeance was a marvel of technology that seemed to operate on principles beyond Alliance understanding. The corridors hummed with energy from unknown power sources, and the very air seemed to vibrate with barely contained force. Captain Elena Vasquez was smaller than Zara had expected. Humans appeared to be a bipedal species with relatively compact builds compared to Krithians, but there was something in the alien captain's eyes that spoke of vast experience and unshakable determination. "Admiral Kelthus," Elena said as they entered her ready room, "before we begin, I want you to know that my people have nothing but respect for the Alliance's courage in fighting the plague. Your resistance has been remarkable." "Your resistance," Zara repeated. "Captain, we've been losing this war for 2 years. 47 worlds have fallen, and we're barely slowing their advance." Elena gestured to a holographic display that showed the galaxy from a perspective Zara had never seen before. Instead of the red tide of plague advancement that dominated Alliance tactical maps, this display showed a different pattern, one of systematic enemy losses across dozens of sectors. "Admiral, in the past 6 weeks, the Devourer plague has lost over 60% of their operational fleet capacity. Their expansion has not only stopped, it's begun to reverse. The enemy is retreating on 17 different fronts." Zara stared at the display in amazement. But how? Who's been fighting them? We have, Alina said simply. The Terran Colonial Defense Force has been conducting operations against plague forces for the past month and a half. We call it Operation Silent Thunder. Terran. Zara repeated the unfamiliar word. Your species calls itself human, correct? Where do you come from? Alina smiled, and for the first time, Zara saw something almost sad in the alien captain's expression. Admiral, our species has been watching your civilization develop for over 200 years. We've seen your great achievements, your beautiful art, your scientific discoveries. We've also seen your wars, your struggles, and your courage in the face of impossible odds. Watching us, from where? From the region you call the empty sector. What your people consider dead space has actually been humanity's home for nearly 3 centuries. We've been building, learning, and preparing for the day when the galaxy might need our help. Zara felt her world shifting around her. The empty sector was supposed to be exactly that, empty. Surveys had shown nothing but dead worlds and cosmic debris. Why didn't you make contact before now? Because the galaxy wasn't ready for us, Alina replied honestly. Your species, all of them, were still learning to work together. The Alliance was still finding its identity. We decided it was better to let your civilization develop naturally while we prepared to help when the time came. And you decided that time was now, when we received your quantum beacon transmission. Yes. The Devourer Plague represents an extinction-level threat to all organic life in the galaxy. We couldn't stand by and watch entire civilizations die when we had the power to help. Alina activated another display, this one showing human ships, moving through space with impossible stealth technology. Our fleet has been systematically eliminating plague strongholds, using weapons designed specifically to counter their adaptive capabilities. Neural cascade devices that sever their hive mind connections. Quantum storm generators that can disrupt matter at the subatomic level. Temporal displacement fields that can age enemy ships into dust in seconds. Zara watched the tactical data with growing amazement and hope. The humans hadn't just been hiding in the empty sector. They had been preparing for a war like this, developing weapons and strategies that could actually defeat the plague. How many ships do you have? She asked. Currently deployed. About 2,800 vessels of various classes. But Admiral, that's not the important number. What do you mean? Alina's expression became deadly serious. The important number is 1. We have 1 chance to end this war quickly and permanently. Our intelligence indicates the plague is building a super factory in the Helix Nebula. If they complete it, they'll be able to reproduce faster than we can destroy them. We need to strike at that facility within the next 48 hours. A coordinated assault on the Helix Nebula. Zara felt her tactical mind engaging with the problem. Even with your advanced technology, the plague has thousands of ships protecting that facility, which is why we need the Alliance fleet, Alina said. Not for the main assault. Our stealth technology and specialized weapons give us the best chance of penetrating their defenses. But we need your ships to create a diversion, to draw their attention while our strike team gets into position. Zara realized what the human captain was asking. You want us to launch a frontal assault on the most heavily defended position in the galaxy while you attack the real target? Yes, it will be extremely dangerous for your forces. Many ships will be lost. But if we succeed, the war ends. If we fail, ... Double quotes. Alina didn't need to finish the sentence. Zara thought about the mathematics of their situation. The Alliance was losing the war anyway. dying slowly as system after system fell to the plague. This plan offered something they hadn't had in 2 years, a chance at actual victory, even if it came at a terrible cost. "How long do you need?" she asked. 12 minutes from the start of your diversionary attack to our deployment of the quantum storm device. 12 minutes. Zara's fleet would have to survive 12 minutes of concentrated fire from thousands of enemy ships while the humans maneuvered into position. Most of her vessels wouldn't survive the first 5 minutes. But if they succeeded, the galaxy would. "Be free, Captain Vasquez," Zara said formally. "On behalf of the Galactic Alliance, I accept your proposal." "When do we begin?" Alina smiled, and this time there was nothing sad in her expression. "Admiral, we begin now. Admiral Chen is already positioning our strike force. The silent fleet is about to become very loud indeed." As if summoned by her words, space around the Helix Nebula began to fill with ships. Alliance vessels emerged from hyperspace in attack formation while invisible to all sensors. Human stealth ships moved like ghosts toward their target. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and for the first time in 2 years, the forces of organic life had reason to hope. Humanity had been watching from the shadows for 2 centuries, learning and preparing. Now it was time to show the Devourer plague what happened when you threaten the species that humans had chosen to protect. The thunder from the void was about to shake the very foundations of space itself.